You are tuned into the Dr. Tyna Show with Dr. Tyna Moore. For more, visit drtyna.com. On this episode of the Dr. Tyna Show, I'm sitting down with Mike Feldstein. Mike is the CEO and mad genius inventor of the Jaspr air filter. Mike is an air quality expert with a background in wildfire and mold remediation. And he was not finding the kind of in-home air filter systems that he wanted to see, that he knew clients needed after his extensive experience in this field. So he created the Jaspr. I wanted to have Mike on the show today because I own a Jaspr air filtration system, and it's a beautiful machine, but it's also quiet and super effective. And I live in Oregon, where we have to deal with wildfires more and more each year, and each year it's getting worse. I know that all of you up in Canada and on the West Coast are significantly dealing with wildfires as well, if not everyone across the United States at this point. And so I wanted to find out more because I intimately understand how air quality impacts our overall health. It impacts our cardiovascular health. It impacts our metabolic health. And I really wanted to pick Mike's brain when it came down to what are the ins and outs and things we need to be thinking about in air filtration in our home. So without further ado, let's jump in. Mike Feldstein, thanks so much for coming on the Dr. Tyna Show today. I am excited to have you here to talk about your Jaspr air filter because, as I was saying earlier, my husband's very excited about it, and we will make sure to add that clip of me telling you all about it because he thinks it's a genius piece of equipment, and after looking into it, I have to agree. So thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I want to hear, first off, like how did this come about? Because it's an ingenious piece of equipment.
Yeah, so my background was, and the reason it's so much different than most air purifiers is because I wasn't just trying saying, let's make a product to sell. My background was in wildfire restoration and mold remediation and some air quality consulting. But I was the guy who, when Hurricane Harvey would happen or a big fire in California or British Columbia, I would mobilize a team, go out there and rebuild and restore homes after really toxic events, as well as big mold situations. So not like your little kitchen leak or your kitchen fire or your toilet leak, but like homes that were water bombed or incredibly impacted from wildfire smoke, evacuate the city, big hurricanes, like really harmful natural disasters. And then I got to see firsthand how impacted people were from air quality, whether it was mold or smoke or whatever it may be. And the machines that we would use on our job sites were called air scrubbers. Big industrial looking machines. They look like a photocopier or like a subwoofer. They're big, they're effective, they're loud, and they're ugly. So, but the important thing is they're effective. So it was perfect for the construction restoration space. However, when I started testing the consumer products that you'd get at Best Buy or Home Depot or Walmart, they don't work very good. And I tried to, there was a big fire in a place called Fort McMurray, Alberta, where I cleaned up a home, and then the family moved back in after smoke damage, and then their baby was in the hospital. So I went back to their house, tested the air, and the air was very contaminated again. So I called the insurance company. I'm like, hey, I think our mutual customers should get out of town for a month or two, let the ambient air pass, we'll re-clean it, then they can move home. And insurance basically was like, so sad, too bad. We already paid, we're paying you. They signed off, we don't clean twice. So I decided the most practical thing we could do is leave a few air scrubbers behind. And then within a few hours, the air quality was back to a good level. They were able to move home, and then we took the equipment out after a couple months. But this kept happening, and we couldn't leave all of our old equipment like at every job site because we had new homes to restore. So I went to Best Buy and I bought 5 or 6 smaller consumer air purifiers, the kind of stuff that you'd see for $200, $300, $400. And I'm like, let's just leave those behind, and then we could just leave those as like a gift. We got paid quite good from restoration jobs that it was more cost effective for us to just leave them a handful of air purifiers than leave our commercial stuff. So within a few more hours, the air quality went back to contaminated again. I was surprised. And then when I really started looking at the difference between our industrial machines and a consumer air purifier, it wasn't like 3 or 4x. It was like 30 or 40x. So I set out on a journey. I used to call it sad money because it was we would respond to wildfires or flood or mold. But I realized there's so many people who are dealing with bad air every day, whether it's the smoke or the mold or whatever, pollution in a city, cooking, pets. And there's not much proactive solutions. And keeping a big, large industrial machine is not practical. The noise is going to drive you crazy. It's going to be a huge nuisance in your life. So I set out on a journey between 2016, 2017, and 2020 to create something that was industrial inspired, made out of steel, very commercial grade, however, also beautiful and quiet and sleek. And then when COVID happened, we ended up selling just to doctors and dentists for the first couple of years of the company. And the product was $2,000. We got it down to $1,400. Then we got it down to $999. And the dentist would rave about it to their patients. Their hygienist would rave about it. And then, mom of an asthmatic child would be like, hey, do they sell these for the home? Dentist would be like, I don't know. Call Jaspr. They would call us. And we would give them huge discounts because it was priced for a consumer. It was priced commercially. And our costs were so high during COVID. Now, as we've gotten our prices down, we've been able to make it affordable. But the reason Jaspr is so different and why we're sort of built different is because I was approaching this from a industrial space and trying to make it pretty and beautiful and quiet, as opposed to saying, let's just make a cheap plastic thing that we could sell at Walmart. So that's probably why your husband appreciates some of the mechanical differences that went into it versus a consumer product, because it's not a consumer product by design.
Well, I'll just retell the story. First of all, it's a good looking unit. It's really attractive and it looks nice in the home. So I'll just give you props there, like from a girl standpoint, point of view, aesthetically. But it sat on the patio. We've got a big porch. Like I said, we live out in the middle of nowhere, and it sat on the patio porch for a few days. And finally I said, babe, can you bring this in? And he's like, you get sent so much shit from all these companies. I'm so sick of all this stuff in our house. And I'm like, dude, it's an air purifier. Open it and just set it up. Like, it's heavy. Just set it up for me. So he brings it inside and I leave the house and I come back home and he's so excited. Like, he was so excited. His eyes were wide. And I told you earlier, he's just like calm, super calm, kind of grumpy farmer guy. But his background is that he literally can build or fix virtually anything. And when you put him to task, and he really does notice, like, he'll open a car engine up, and he used to be a diesel mechanic in the Army, and he'll start playing with parts, and he really notices when things are built well or they're unique or they're innovative, and he gets excited. And he was so excited when I came home and he had it all set up. He's like, this machine is incredible. Like, this is what I would have built if I had the gumption to do it. Like, it's so smart. Like, he loved the filter, and you'll have to tell me why it's unique. He just was so excited about all of it. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And then he was really excited that I was going to talk to you today. So he had questions. He opened the website and he starts rattling stuff off. I'm like, I'm sure I'll learn all about it, babe. So here we are. But
and more importantly, or like at least as importantly, a lot of stuff when it comes to air, people don't have to buy a product. There's a lot of stuff that people can do for free at home immediately. And once you increase your air awareness, that is more important than any product you could ever buy. It's like, if you think about it, we eat 2 or 3 pounds of food a day. We drink 2 liters of water a day, but we breathe 17,000 liters of air. You can go 3 weeks without food, 3 days without water, and 3 minutes without air. So air is this thing that we don't pay attention to, but it's the thing that we consume most of in the world. And whether it's mold, think if someone's having a mold issue or an allergy issue, the 4 ways things get in our body is eating it, drinking it, absorption through our skin, or breathing it. And with most of these things, we don't eat them or drink them or put them on our skin. So a lot of people are quite sick, and it's an air problem. But because we're so oblivious to air, because it's the first thing we did when we were born, it's the last thing we do when we die, and we do it all night long when we sleep, even unconsciously, we take it for granted. We don't really pay attention to it. So my mission, more than making products or selling products, is to educate people so you can become more air aware. If you think back to childhood, water was just water. No one even thought about filtering water. And then you think back and you're like, that hose water did kind of taste a little bit plasticky.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, once you start drinking filtered water and you go get tap water at a restaurant, you're like, this tastes like chemicals. So you elevated your taste buds and your water consciousness, your water awareness. So now that you've calibrated your taste buds, you can avoid bad water just by taste. It tastes plasticky. It tastes chlorinated. So your taste buds are able to help your health by making good decisions. And that same amount of awareness entirely exists with air. People just need to kind of pay attention, and then you can start making good decisions. When you're at a mall, at a hotel, at someone's house, when you're cooking, when you're cleaning, there's a lot of little decisions that you can make to really improve it. So I'm happy to share some of that stuff with people too.
Yeah, I want to talk about all of it because people don't realize the impact that air is having on them. And we're seeing study after study come out in even more recent years. I mean, we've always known this, right? Like take your shoes off before you come into the house. And there's little things we can do like that. But the studies coming out showing the rates of heart disease and the rates of all different kinds of conditions. And I really believe that metabolic health is significantly impacted by air quality. Over time, those who live in air polluted cities and air polluted areas really do get impacted negatively, specifically the cardiovascular system. I live out in the country and it's windy out here. I'm kind of in a wind tunnel coming off the Cascades. And when we have the windows open, we don't have forced air. We don't actually, my husband is so concerned about air quality that he didn't even put any kind of forced air or heat through our house. We have the floors warm up. It's like water. He's crazy. He's like a mad scientist. So you guys would get along.
Radiant in-floor heating.
Yes. So he did not want air blowing through the house. But when we open the windows off of these fields, my big concern is there's a lot of glyphosate and there's a lot of spray on these fields.
That's the real problem.
Yeah. And it's blowing all through our house the dust layer in our house is intense. So you said something in some of the literature I looked at that a house should not get dusty. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, my house gets almost no dust. And that's because if you think about it, cleaning, where does the dust come from? Let's say there's dust accumulating on a counter. Does it come from the counter or does it come from the air? Those are the two places it could come from. So dust is typically a symptom of poor indoor air. If you go outside, you won't see dust on the driveway, on the lawn, on the sidewalk. There's no dust outside. Dust is an indoor problem. There could be sand outside, but there's not going to be like household dust and dust mites. Dust happens when you have very poor ventilation. So that's, radiant in-floor heating is great, but if the air is not circulating and venting enough, then dust can accumulate. And then dust becomes a vessel for mold, for pollen, for allergens, for VOCs. So if you have when you're cleaning a home, you want to be cleaning the surface and you want to be cleaning the air. It's kind of an integrated approach. So by cleaning the air more, you can actually clean your surfaces less. Also, when you vacuum, if someone's not using a HEPA vacuum, all those particles that you are vacuuming go airborne. And then they just find themselves in your HVAC system. Well, you don't have one, back on your surfaces again. So outside, dust is not an issue because we have sun. So we have the most powerful UV light. We have wind. We have trees for purification. But in an indoor environment, we built these very tight little homes that are wrapped in plastic vapor barrier that don't breathe very good. So all of the outdoor pollutants come inside and get trapped inside. And all of the indoor pollutants from off-gassing, cooking, cleaning, pets, etc., stay inside. So you have the double whammy of the indoor air pollutants being trapped inside, the outdoor air pollutants coming inside, and then you've left out the UV via the sun and the trees and the wind. So we left nature's air filter outside and we trapped everything in a box. So that is typically why indoor air has that problem. And if someone has good ventilation and adequate air filtration, then you tend to find basically no dust accumulation, at least a lot less.
Yeah. So you mentioned HVAC. I really still to this day don't understand what HVAC means. And I don't know what HEPA stands for. So can you just give me the
I sure can.
The down low.
A couple acronyms. So HVAC is heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. So it's just a fancy way of saying your furnace and your air conditioner.
Okay.
It's all the mechanical stuff. It's all the vents, the furnace, and basically for 99% of people, HVAC means it's your furnace and your air conditioner.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. And that's really what's pumping the air through the home and should be cleaning it, I'm guessing.
No.
Okay.
No, most homes have a furnace and an air conditioner. They don't have any filtration. There's this little filter. It's called a furnace filter, but it's designed to filter big clumps of particles from getting in your furnace. That's why it's literally called a furnace filter. It's a lot of people think that the furnace filter, you change it every 3 months or every 6 months, it's going to clean your air. It will not. All it will do is if you don't change it regularly, it's going to get all the pores are going to be clogged up and your furnace is going to work less effectively. So it's not designed to be an air filtration system. you can put big air filters on your furnace or on your HVAC system. However, we actually spent the first couple of years trying to develop that, but it was just so ineffective because you want your furnace and air conditioner to only run when they need to, minimally, to be energy efficient. So when your furnace is not running, that filter is not cleaning. And it's sitting in the middle of your house. So you're literally cleaning your basement or some hallway as much as you're cleaning your bedroom or your baby's bedroom. So you're not able to focus your cleaning efforts. So as much as I really, really wanted the whole home system to be a good solution, it was loud, it was ineffective, it was expensive. You can't take it with you when you leave. So it wasn't this, you could sell it through tens of thousands of HVAC dealers, furnace companies. So that's the direction that I really wanted to take things. And then I realized, damn, this is not the way to go. You really need a portable solution.
Yeah.
And then
That makes
HEPA
sense.
means high efficiency particulate air. It's a blessing and a curse because everybody calls everything a HEPA these days, but it's not that important. All that HEPA literally means is it's a standard. It means at the particle size of 0.03 microns, it's filtering 99.97% of the air. It's a silly thing because everybody calls their filter a HEPA, but there's no standard of what it actually means for a test. So for example, if I hold up like a Kleenex or a tissue or a paper towel and I blow over so gently on it, technically it could be a HEPA because it just means that, a piece of paper, if you blow, the more airflow that passes through a filter, the worse it performs. So you would think that there'd be a standard that says, hey, when you're doing a test on your filter, you have to test it at the same speed. It'd be like, imagine they told you about miles per gallon on your car when you were driving 1 mile an hour instead of a practical speed. That would not be a reasonable test. I'm sure if you were driving, just rolling with your brake down a hill, your car would probably have the best mileage of all time. So that's pretty much what's happening in the air industry. No one's testing their miles per gallon at a real speed. You should have to test it at 30 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour at like an actual speed that you would drive. Otherwise, or it's like, how many foot does your car brake in? If you were riding the brake, you would have the best brakes ever. But if you're going 100 miles an hour, your brake time wouldn't be very good. So unfortunately, that's why I like doing podcasts, because not everything is just an Amazon filter or an Instagram picture. So some things are a little bit more nuanced to actually explain. Also, if you had a HEPA air filter, I'm drinking a cup of water. So if the HEPA air filter was the size of this cup, it could still filter over 99%. But because it's so small, it's not filtering very much air. So that 99% is per each pass. It's like if you try to heat a closet or a small bedroom with a space heater, it works great. But if you try to heat your big open living room with a space heater, it doesn't do anything. So if you have a very small filter, it could be a HEPA, but it could also be way too small to get the job done. So a lot of people are marketing on how much air it cleans per pass. But what matters way more is, would you rather have 99% of $1 or 95% of $5? So often actually having a less efficient filter is way better at cleaning the air. So we like to focus on what cleans the air the best, more than these cute one-liners with percentages and microns and stats that are really just kind of techniques to pretend you're different.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I get what you're saying. It's yeah, okay. I'm adding it up in my head. This is the stuff my husband geeks out on. We should have him interviewing you. I was like, you want to come down? There's other factors in the air too that you have mentioned to me offline. So there's PM 2.5, VOC. What are those? I don't know what that means either.
Yeah, PM 2.5 means particulate matter under 2.5 microns in size.
Okay.
So fancy way of saying little teeny tiny particles that are small enough to enter your lungs and enter your bloodstream.
Okay.
So if it's PM 10 could be like hair particulate, larger particle sizes, maybe too small to see with the naked eye, but your body's able to filter those out. PM 2.5 and smaller is a particle that's small enough to actually cause a lot of harm. VOCs is volatile organic compounds, And this is a catch-all word for thousands of chemicals.
Right.
So a VOC could be benzene, toluene. It could also mean formaldehyde. So it's sort of a silly like catch-all word because different filters filter different VOCs differently. There's different concentrations in your home. Not all VOCs are the same, but it's, we can't possibly remember all thousands of chemicals. So VOC and a filter that is effective at filtering some VOCs is pretty good at filtering most of them.
Okay.
So we kind of just, we broadly call things, when we talk about particulate or particles, we're talking about like physical things, smoke, dust, pollen, mold, when cooking debris, pet dander. These are like particles that the filter actually captures. It stops in its tracks. Whereas a carbon filter filters VOCs. Think about gas, odors. So these are gases that will not be caught by a filter. So they have to be absorbed by the carbon. That's why a good air purifier has two or three layers of filter, combining the HEPA portion, which is for the particles, and then the carbon portion, which is for the odors and gases.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, it's making sense now because when I go to change filters on different air purifiers I've used, I didn't understand what all of them were or what they were for, but this makes a lot more sense now. Go back to the PM 2.5. What can you give me some examples of things that are that small? Like, would mold be in that category, or the mycotoxins? Like, what?
Those are even smaller.
Okay.
So, PM 2.5 would definitely be created in a day-to-day life by cooking, by cleaning, by pollution, by wildfire smoke. When you look at air quality in a given city, they usually talk about PM 2.5 or AQI, which is the air quality index.
Yes.
And even that is mostly made up of PM 2.5.
Okay.
So if they're talking about like the wildfire smoke outside, generally we're going to be talking in PM 2.5.
Okay.
And that's what the number on the Jaspr says. There are particles that are smaller, like mold and mycotoxins, and that's a really, really big deal. And a lot of people, it's pretty heartbreaking, actually. My background was in restoring moldy homes. So, but it was it's heartbreaking nowadays. There's two terms that I really don't like. One's called the mold rush, and one is mold is gold. So there's a whole mold industry that is designed on basically making people think that their house is killing them. Which could be contributing. But when there's like visible physical black mold in your home, you definitely want to call 3 restoration companies, 3 mold remediation companies, get quotes and get it removed safely. However, a lot of the times now, people do an air test for mold, which is a good test to do. They get their blood test, they get a mycotoxin test, they get panicked that there's invisible mold everywhere in their home, and they start ripping their house apart. It costs them tens or thousands or hundred thousands of dollars that they may not even have. And then often they're renting like an apartment or a house that's likely moldier than the house that they moved out of. Because mold is everywhere.
Yep.
Mold is like pollen. So there's mold outside, there's mold inside. I'm breathing in mold right now. It's more about what species is it? How much is it? How allergic to it are you? And the good thing is, like, that's why I got out of remediating people's homes, because you're up against the whole industry is predicated on fear and then convincing people that they need to start ripping apart their house. Now, if you have let's say you have bad water, and if you have a well or you have city water, unless you have spring water, your water is not going to be great. So you filter it. You don't have to rip up all your pipes. You just have to filter the water. You don't have to dig a new well. You don't have to trench some new line to the city. You just have to you can get a shower filter. You can get a faucet filter. You can get a whole home water filtration system. With air is much sneakier. It doesn't come in through a singular pipe. It comes in through the attics, the doors, the cracks, the vents. We need to breathe. And if the only way mold is making you sick, going back to how things get in your body, would be eating it, drinking it, absorption through your skin, or breathing it. So mold and pollen, these are breathing issues. And what ends up happening with people is their airborne level, there's mold in their home because their house doesn't breathe very good and they don't filter their air. Just the same way that if you drink tap water, there's chlorine in your water. So you filter the water.
Right.
And people and then a lot of naturopaths and a lot of really great wellness practitioners they're running, they have patients, they have staff, they have a business to run. And then all of a sudden, now all of a sudden they're getting thousands of requests about mold detox. So what do? They sign up for a mold course to get educated. A lot of these courses are 1 to 3 days, a little bit longer. And a lot of the times they're taught by the restoration industry, the mold guys. And there's various types of mold tests. Most of them are either designed to skew positive or skew negative. So when I was doing mold consulting, we would use several different tests. But the best test of all is usually a good nose.
Yep.
Usually, if it smells moldy, it is moldy. And especially if someone's not using fragrances and Glade plugins and chemical cleaning agents to mask stuff, I call all that stuff air makeup. If you keep it neutral in your home, your sense of smell is you're going to be the best advocate for mold. And it's very sad because when we would remediate a home from mold, we seal the room, we put air filtration in that room, we put air filtration outside that room, we remove, we called it surgical removal, all fancy words. We would double bag the mold, we would cut out the drywall or the impacted material. Then we would wipe down all of the materials, the floor, the walls, the ceiling with an antimicrobial. And we remove the mold and we let the air purifiers run for 3 days. And then you'd go back to the house and you test the house again. Often companies turn off the air purifier right before they do the test. So of course there's no mold in the air. You've been running air filters. If anybody gets mold remediation done and then they get a clearance test done, do the clearance test a week after you turned off the air filters and guaranteed you're going to have mold in your air again, because it's like the chlorine, it's like the bacteria. Filtering your air is the same as filtering your water. It's something you have to do continuously if you want clean air.
Yep. No, that totally makes sense. And I agree with you about the sniffer test, because especially once you've been mold sick, you're just heightened to it. So anywhere I walk into, I'm like, it smells like mold, I'm out. That's how I shop. When I was looking at houses, I was like, it's either moldy or it's not. And I can smell it immediately. And my husband would always look at me and be like, are you making this up? I'm like, no, you can't smell it. I'm sorry you can't smell it. But if I smell it, yeah. And also, I think that what you said is so true. Mold is everywhere. I live in Oregon. Like, mold is everywhere. Every building after a while is going to become moldy. And my whole approach with patients is, we need the filtration system, and also we need to be resilient, right? Like, so that's my whole shtick, is like, we have to be resilient to whatever may come our way, whether it be viruses or mold or whatnot. And mold's trying to compost us. And it's trying to compost our homes, and that's what it's doing. So ultimately, having airflow, if we had airflow going the past few years during this whole situation that's been going on, if everybody had just invested in good air filtration, it would have been a whole different game. But that was never the conversation, right? It was just other interventions that were the key. And I'm over here like, can we just get the air circulating and cleaned up? Whenever, good clinicians, because you walk into their clinic and they've got multiple air filtration systems going throughout the clinic and the lobby. And you're like, oh, or even I've been to event venues, I've been to concerts, I've been to different places where they're just literally giant air filtration, good systems lined up against the wall. And they spent the money on it and the investment. And you're like, oh, I'm going to be good in here. Like, I'm not nearly as, yeah. It's a whole different ballgame.
I've been working with a lot of wellness business, massage, chiro, physio, gyms. And if you are in a 10 by 10 room getting a massage, you've basically made out with that therapist or that patient 20 times over.
Yep.
And the last patient too.
Yep.
Because you guys if you just look at the CFM of your lungs and theirs, and the air is not being circulated, you're both sharing the air constantly. So we've helped clinics with messaging that's like, we care about the air that we share. And if you care about your patients, and even more for staff. So during COVID, it was a huge, dentists were the ones investing in air filtration. In Ontario, it was mandated. Every dentist needed an air purifier in every room. And honestly, they should have had it before. Dentists were already one of the biggest consumers of air filtration of any business. The Department of Labor ranks dentists and dental hygienists as 2 of the most 5 dangerous jobs in America. More than firefighters, cops, mine workers, nuclear power plant people, because you're blasting high velocity air and water into people's mouths. So when you test the air in a dental office, there's blood, saliva, bacteria, viruses. The dentist has that little mask, which is kind of helpful. The patient has no mask. Your mouth is wide open. So it's called bioaerosols in dental, and forward-thinking dentists have been using air filters for years. Like I used to have a talk for dentists. Once upon a time, dentists didn't wear masks or gloves. Not that long ago, they'd put their finger in your mouth. They wouldn't wear a mask.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be much longer until it seems equally crazy that they clean the instruments between the patient. They wipe down the surface, but why are they cleaning the surface? Because of all the bioaerosols that landed on them.
Yep.
But they're all just floating in the air for the next patient to breathe. So it really increased air awareness. And then Jaspr, it's green when the air is good. It gets orange and red when the air is bad. And in between every single patient and during each patient, Jaspr is red all the time in a dental setting. So when the Jaspr would break or have some sort of issue once in a while, staff would refuse to work, which ended up being the best thing for us because we became resilient as a business, because what we would do is we would express ship them a Jaspr the next day. They would take the new one out of the box. They put the old one in the box. We'd give them a prepaid shipping label. And then we just maintain that level of warranty and support for consumers because we treat it like a medical product, even if it's just in somebody's home or in their bedroom. And Finland, it's going crazy on Twitter right now. Millions of views. It came out just yesterday. By putting a quality air filter in daycares, they're getting 18% reduction in absenteeism like right away.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I was just going to say daycare should just be plastered with good air filtration because that kids are like little incubators, they get everything, they process everything, their great little immune systems rock it out, and then they bring it home to their parents who maybe aren't as robust or resilient, and boom. Yeah, absolutely. Like, can you imagine testing the air inside a daycare center? It's probably
I have.
Is it just crazy? I bet it's just like bioaerosols of craziness.
It's bad. Babies' nurseries are also really, 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 really bad at home.
Yeah.
Because people use these diaper pails
and
you make a baby, you buy a lot of stuff for your baby's nursery. So you buy a brand new crib, new sheets, new paint. So you absolutely fill the nursery with VOC and off-gassing. And then you get a diaper pail where you put dirty diapers in. And if you test the air in baby's nursery, like very simple rule of air, of all things. If it smells like poo, it is poo. And if it is poo, it's bacteria, it's E. coli, it's Enterobacter. When you're driving by a construction site, if it smells like asphalt, it is asphalt.
Mm-hmm.
If it smells like rubber, you're putting rubber in your body. And there's just like you'd probably be better off actually eating it than drinking it because your digestive system is far better than your respiratory system at filtering things. And if you imagine eating little bits of this stuff, it doesn't sound very good. But when we breathe it, we go, it smells like blank. It doesn't smell like it. You're putting it in your nose. And you're putting it in your lungs. So with baby's nursery, fun little story for you. When my daughter Aria is 4 right now, when she was a newborn, my wife Rachel, we were using one of these diaper pails. And this is before I tested the air for bacteria, but I'm like, yo, it stinks like shit in here. This is not good. Rach, I highly recommend that you take the diapers directly outside. This can't be good for Aria. And she's like, easy for you to say, like I got a million things to deal with. Yeah. There's like 20 diapers a day, new mom. It's every little task adds up. So I was like, cool. Has a rite of passage for tonight. Let's put the diaper pail into our bedroom. By the way, I'm going to sleep on the couch tonight. And Rachel's like, no, are you kidding? I'm not sleeping with that thing in our room. And when she kind of realized that, it clicked. And she's like, oh, wow, I didn't really realize that. So adults are breathing 10 to 20,000 times a day. Babies breathe 60,000 times per day. And they have these little tiny, high respiratory rate, small lungs, not such a developed immune system yet. Their internal air filtration is basically not great. They can't advocate for themselves. And they're born into this world. And it's like, here, sleep in a poop room.
Oh my goodness.
Once you any parent out there who's still using a diaper pail, I challenge them to either A, get rid of it. That's my suggestion. Take the diaper right outside. Pee diapers, not as big of a deal. Take it outside every, 48 hours or so. But the poo diapers, if you think it's okay, try it in your room tonight and see how good you sleep.
Oh my goodness. That's incredible. You don't realize that. And It's so true. I mean, everything you are saying is, I completely agree with you. And that's just wild. I think about our pets too. I'm not a veterinarian, but I have several friends who are. And very often when our animals are presenting with sickness, like chronic itching, chronic chewing of their paws, chronic this and that, usually skin lesions, chronic itchy ears, they'll often attribute it to allergies that they're breathing in. And I remember early on thinking, like, really? Like, this isn't like a actual, exposure topically. This is them breathing in the air and then having an allergic reaction. And I had a veterinarian, I had a dog with really severe skin allergies. And she's like, you have to get good air filtration in your house. Like, that's huge. This is going to be huge. And it really was. It was huge for the dog. And I like, that changed everything for me. And I can't,
good for you too.
I can't imagine.
To breathe less pet dander.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can't imagine it's any different for us. I mean, we're presenting, people are saying like, I have psoriasis, I have eczema. I don't ever watch regular TV, but I was watching regular TV the other day, and every other commercial was an ad for Big Pharma for
fast food and Big Pharma.
But it was all psoriasis. I'm like, are we having a psoriasis epidemic and nobody gave me the memo? Like, this is crazy. And this can't just be topical skin exposure. I mean, psoriasis is an autoimmune condition. It's coming from the inside. I'm like, what is triggering it? Is this air quality? Is this obviously the foods we're eating are garbage, but it's just another factor that people should really consider.
Look,
yeah,
I got some.
Yeah.
If I don't eat bread, and I drink filtered water and I breathe clean air, it's really at bay.
Yeah.
If I introduce any of the stressors, especially if I sauna regularly and I drink a lot of water, it's really, really at bay. And then if I do any one of those things poorly, moldy hotel room, bad air, bread, eat some bad food, alcohol, it tends to really get worse. It's like my radar of my stress radar, essentially.
Yep.
Also, we did a cool study recently. So we shipped 100 people Jaspers in exchange for 1 month of their sleep data from their Oura rings.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about this.
And we're starting to now consolidate the data and writing case studies. But like 65% of people had all-time high sleep scores, REM, deep sleep. The reviews are just crazy. And we had them do, first week was no Jaspr off. Weeks 2 and 3, Jaspr on in your bedroom. Fan speed 2, lights off. It's got dark mode. And then the 4th week, they took the Jaspr out of the room. And it was amazing watching the sleep scores go up and then come back down. A couple of them messaged actually saying that they caved. Because what happens is once you started breathing with clean air at night, you have a really hard time going back.
Amazing.
So we like to put our money where our mouth is. Like you said, like Big Pharma is a massive funder of media and also studies, and they start with the end in mind. So I was really hoping that we got a result like this, because we get reviews all the time about how people are sleeping so much better. But I'm like, if we don't get good data all at once in an organized way, we won't really know about it. And what we did is we triaged people, and a lot of the folks who participated in the study were doctors, were health and wellness influencers, were creators, were people with insomnia. So we triaged everybody to have a diverse group of people as a part of the study. And a lot of them documented their progress weekly. So I'm like, I hate that most studies are done behind closed doors and there's no transparency. All of a sudden you just see a paper. I'm like, why didn't you guys film the study then? How come, like, where are the people who are part of the study? None of them are willing to like talk about it. So our intention is to do more of these studies in public, community kind of led focus studies. In the spring, we're going to do another one in Texas with seasonal allergies. And I like how you mentioned resilience before. I created Jaspr for wildfire smoke. That was the plan. I never thought I'd be talking to you, talking about health and wellness, talking about sleep. I'm glad it turned out this way, but this was never part of the plan. The reason why we made it so high quality was because we were trying to make it tackle wildfire smoke. And then dust and pollen and mold are just easier problems to solve. And the craziest thing that I've witnessed now almost every day is folks who suffer from allergies. What happens is we are very resilient, but the average bedroom has 800,000 particles floating around in it. If you put a Jaspr in the bedroom, within about an hour, that number is reduced by about 95%.
Wow.
So what happens is I like to call the bedroom a sleep sanctuary, and I call air sleep fuel. So with a bedroom, if it's hot or cold, you're going to be no matter how comfortable the bed is, if it's too hot, you're not going to sleep well.
Mm-hmm.
And then if the temperature's dialed in, but it's super loud and you're above a nightclub, or it's really loud in the hotel room next door, you're not going to sleep well. Your sleep quality is only as good as the weakest link. So, if it's too dry or too humid, problem. And same thing goes for like really heavily polluted air. So what's happening to people is they're getting beat down by pollen and mold 24 hours a day, inside their house, outside their house. And when we test a carpet or a bed for pollen, there's typically more pollen in your house than there is outside, because that pollen comes inside and then it gets embedded in all of the porous materials in your house, and it can't get out. So you're breathing it nonstop. And when all of a sudden you go from breathing 800,000 particles a night to breathing 10,000, your body gets to stop playing defense. It gets to enter recovery mode. It gets parasympathetic. And then the coolest thing about it is not only do people sleep really, really well, but then when they go out into the world, their seasonal allergies are often gone, because now that their streps bucket gets to drain every single night and not be bombarded, all of a sudden we're very resilient. We can handle some pollen and some mold and some allergies, or some chemicals even for an hour here or there. But it's the 24-hour chronic beatdown that actually gives people these bad symptoms. So the thing that I'm like most passionate and excited about is when people can dial in their air quality in their bedroom and in their home. The 95%, we spend 95% of our time indoors. Huge blessing, but also a curse. It's a curse because that's way too much time to be indoors, and indoor air is bad. But the blessing is your home and your bedroom is one atmosphere. It's one environment that you can control. You choose the lights. You choose the bedding. You choose the water. You choose the air. When you're out at an Airbnb or a hotel or driving through the city, you have no sovereignty over your environment. So you can really turn that negative into a positive by making your house like a recovery zone.
Yep. I totally agree. I call it harm reduction. Like, what can we do in our homes to control and contain things, because we don't have much control once we step out. So making the home itself a sanctuary as best we can, especially the bedroom, that's huge. It's nuts when the wildfires were happening here. I mean, I'm in Oregon, so the sky was red all last week. It was really, really hot. Maybe you can explain why this happens. The hotter it gets during wildfire seasons, it's almost like it traps the air and it doesn't get out. And so the whole sky was this weird orange color for a week, and we were in the middle of some pretty hot weather last week. And my anxiety, I mean, granted, my Instagram got pulled down for a hot minute, so that was part of it, but my anxiety was through the roof. And every time we get wildfire smoke, my anxiety goes through the roof, to the point where I actually leave. One year I actually left for 10 days because it was so bad here. I flew to Vegas and just stayed in a hotel for 10 days because I was like, I'm not going home. I can't breathe that. I freak out. What is all that about? Because it's insane what it does to my nervous system.
Yeah, even like here in Texas, often it's very hazy when it's hot. It creates ground level ozone. And if you think about it, when you heat stuff up, if you're cooking, if you don't start cooking, you don't smell the food. Once you start heating the food, you can smell it more.
Mm-hmm.
So your air, it's like evaporation. You're aerosolizing all the stuff, the roads, the grass, the everything that's on the ground. As you heat it all up, it goes more airborne.
Wow.
When you freeze things, it goes into a solid. When it melts, it becomes a liquid, and when you heat it, it becomes a gas.
Yep.
So all the things that weren't in the air go in the air. And then if you think about it, when you're dealing with, and I lived in British Columbia, so I actually left Kelowna because of the wildfire smoke. It was the number one reason that we left. We have 2 babies. We're already always on evacuation alert. And so if good air is like a 4 or 5, that's what your Jaspr should say most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And outside, when there's wildfire smoke, it could be like a 250 or 300. That's how much particulates are in the air outside. That's like Delhi. It's like horrible. And what people don't realize is even when it's outside is 250 and they're like, stay inside today, school's canceled, recess is canceled, stay indoors, don't exercise outside. Your indoor particulate can still be 150 to 200.
Wow.
It's almost as bad as the outdoor air. It's 20, 30% better at best. The problem is you can't see it or smell it inside because you become nose blind.
Yep.
So you go outside and it smells like a campfire. It's like when you're cooking your s'mores by the fire, you don't smell the smoke. When you come inside and take a shower the next day, you're like, I stink, even days later.
Yep.
Because you get nose blind. When you're in the smoke, you don't smell the smoke unless it's in your eyes. You don't really notice it, but you could smell a campfire a block away, 2 blocks away. But when you're a part of the campfire, you get nose blind. And folks who live in wildfire zones, and not even wildfire zones, last year it impacted New York City and Chicago and Toronto, and no part of the country didn't experience wildfire smoke in 2023. And the interesting thing here is when you don't notice it's inside. I only noticed because I had air quality testing equipment and filtration. But we had a nanny at the time, and I gave her a Jaspr because she would come over. She's like, oh, air. And then she'd go home. I'm like, just take it. Her name was Tessie. I'm like, Tessie, just bring a Jaspr home. She was awesome. So she went home, hit smart mode, and it started. She was in a small basement apartment. It started at like 220. So it was almost the same as it was outside. And within an hour, it was down to like 9 or 10, which was back to excellent. And in that setting, you could really like see it and feel it cleaning the air. And that's what we designed it for wildfire smoke. And when it's like when you're in a building and it feels, so when someone says it feels stuffy, that is layman's term for the carbon dioxide level is high. Or if you're on a road trip and you're like, I got to open some windows and get some fresh air. What you're really saying is we need to purge this carbon dioxide in here.
Yeah.
And same thing when it's like really smoky and bad polluted air, your body is being stressed. It's like if you turn the heat to, if it's 100 degrees Fahrenheit outside, you're also going to feel very stressed. You're like, I need to cool off. I need to get some water. I need to cool off. So if you're breathing really polluted air, you're like, I just need some clean air to breathe. So that's what would typically happen to somebody, whether it's smoke is probably the most prolific example of it, but a small version of a wildfire happens every time you cook inside your house. Because if you don't have good ventilation and you're not opening your doors and your windows and you don't have filtration, every time you cook, you're polluting your air quite a lot. So yeah, that's what's happening with the wildfire smoke. And then, yeah, cooking, if you don't have a solution for it, can be quite problematic as well.
Yeah, all of my air filters in my house go on red alert when we cook. I'm like, uh-oh, we better open the windows, especially when we melt butter. That's the really interesting one. Or cook steak. All the air filtration goes red. And we're like,
even if you have grass-fed, grass-finished steak with organic oils and you get all the right stuff and you got the right pans.
Oh, yeah.
The thing is, when you got high heat and protein, that creates a lot of chemical compounds that are byproducts. It's not like you're just breathing in steak and olive oil or avocado oil or whatever. You are breathing in the compounds that are byproducts of the heat and the protein. When we would clean up homes after wildfire smoke, we're always testing for PAH, which gets created from those high heats. And most people's range hoods don't actually work. So free tip, people can take a tissue. First step is hold it up to your range hood and make sure your range hood sucks it up. 50% of people's won't. It doesn't actually even vent anything. Step 2, if it is actually adequately pulling it up, make sure the range hood vents outside. A lot of the time, it's venting into a wall cavity, into a cupboard, into your attic. It's not venting outside. So you're taking it from your kitchen and you're just dumping it somewhere else. And then is it even pulling? Sometimes they actually blow down. They're the opposite of pulling. Bathroom fan, do the same thing. Take a tissue, make sure your bathroom fans are sucking the tissue up. Make sure your bathroom fan vents outside. A lot of people get mold in their attics because they take a shower, they turn on the fan, and then they just dump all that moisture into their attic. So you want to make sure the vents in your home are doing what they're supposed to be doing. When you cook, range hood is not just for bacon. You should use it no matter what when you're cooking. And especially if you're boiling something, use the back burners. So first step is make sure the range hood even works. Step 2 is use your back burner as much as you can. I get it. Sometimes, you're cooking and it's kind of a little bit cumbersome to reach the back burner. But especially if you're like sauteing stuff or you're boiling it, when it's convenient to, keep it on the back burner because the range hoods are much more efficient at collecting particles when you're directly under it. When you're on those front 2 burners, a lot of the smoke and particulate doesn't get caught by the range hood.
Yeah.
And then also if it's not super polluted and it's not too hot or too cold based on the time of the year and where you live, opening windows when you're cooking is awesome. Of course, air filtration is a good idea as well. And when some people are like, okay, but why is healthy food bad to breathe? So A was those chemical compounds that aren't the food or the oil itself, But the second thing is when you put food inside you, you have a digestive system. It breaks things down. It takes out the nutrients, filters out the rest. When that goes into your respiratory system, you don't have that same level of filtration. So it really irritates it. It causes a lot of inflammation. Like just because you eat something, it doesn't mean you can snort it.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. I laugh because I'm 50 years old and I had too many friends back in the 90s that were sure they could snort everything. So, no,
Hopefully not steak.
No, we're not snorting our steaks. No. I love that. What is this smart mode on the Jaspr? Tell me more about that.
So yeah, the smart mode is what you should keep on, and the Jaspr that's in your. And I think about Jaspr kind of like a Sonos system.
Okay.
So it has no Wi-Fi, no Bluetooth, no EMF. So it's not Sonos in the sense that it's Wi-Fi. It's not. But Sonos was a really cool invention. Same with hardwired speakers, because back in the day, you just have like one speaker. So you'd have to like make it really loud if you wanted to hear it in the other rooms. You probably wouldn't even hear it. You'd feel the bass, but you wouldn't hear it. And then along came Sonos, where you could have reasonable volume in every room. So we think about Jaspr as a decentralized whole home system. Much better than a furnace. It's decentralized, so you can put it in your bedroom. You can put it in your living room. Smart mode is designed to respond to PM 2.5 and to VOCs. So next time wildfire smoke comes into the area, Jaspr will respond. If you cook, Jaspr will respond. So smart mode is designed to automatically, and I don't like when there's they call everything a smart product, but it's actually a dumb product because I have to have an app to control it. So is the product smart or is it dumb because I have to use my phone to control it? Dishwashers, fridges, everything has an app these days. So we really wanted to stay away from that. Fun fact, I didn't have a phone for 3 years recently, between 2017 and 2020. So the last thing I want to do is create a product that forces people to use their phone even more. So smart mode means it's smart, so you don't have to be. You can set it and forget it. So, however, if it's in a bedroom setting, turning it up to like fan speed 2 or fan speed 3 on dark mode, so there's no ambient light, is the best practice for a bedroom setting. But yeah, smart mode is the best to detect the cooking and the cleaning and the pollution, and then also the VOCs. So often someone could like come into your home, or a dog could walk by it, or your neighbor could be cutting drywall 5 houses down. My mom was recently staining a picnic table 200 feet from our house, from their lake house in Canada. And Jaspr actually responded to that 200 feet away.
Wow.
It's like when you're at the beach and someone sprays sunscreen, even if they're like that aerosol stuff, you could be in any direction and like 100 feet away and you're going to smell the sunscreen. Air is much like water. So it's kind of contaminating the whole thing. And your home is not separate from the outside environment. So if your neighbor, even if you're using, low tox chemicals and good cooking products and cleaning products, but your neighbor is using bounce sheets in the dryer, they're venting it out of their house and directly into yours.
Right.
So yeah, and other people's kind of outdoor air quality issues can become your indoor problem.
Yep. No, absolutely. I would agree with that as well. It's infuriating actually when somebody starts spraying sunscreen all over themselves and their kids and they're standing next to everybody. I'm like, you guys, we do not want to be aerosolizing this crap. I won't even put it on my skin.
I want to create a business card for it that says like, like sunscreen awareness. Like I wanted to do the same thing during COVID with the masks, but I couldn't. Nobody would listen back then. And I'm like, dude, when we would put on a mask, we would have to get certified and fit tested for mold particles and asbestos spores. We were wearing P100 respirator masks. And the rule was if you could smell a cigarette, the mask doesn't work.
Yep.
And you had to be clean shaven every day. So when people are now, I haven't approached people with the sunscreen yet, but I'd like to and be like, hey guys, do you know this is what you're doing? A, for yourself, B, for the water, C, for the plants, the animals, and everybody around you. It just seems like the most oblivious thing ever when people are just spraying all those chemicals everywhere. And you see it like almost none of it's even getting on them.
No, but I'm breathing it. And I know that
you're breathing it.
And I'm breathing these aerosolized particulate of chemicals I don't want to even put on my skin in the first place, let alone inhale it into my body. It's wild. People just don't know. This is why I wanted to have you on, because this is like air awareness is so important and people have no idea. I will
you see the back of my shirt.
I can't read it. I got to put my glasses.
You are what you breathe.
It's true. It's true. Well, I knew this myself early on. Like I shared with you, I was that allergy kid, so it was really evident for me that just different environments, and to this day, different environments will set off my lungs. And as an adult, a few years ago, one of the reasons I closed my clinic was because I was so stressed out and I was doing way, way, way too much. And one of the big things was I kept getting pneumonia because my immune system was so compromised from all of the stress. And when you don't have great lungs, like my lungs are my weak spot. So when you don't have great lungs, you are acutely aware of what you're breathing in. I won't even walk down the aisle of the cleanser section of the grocery store. I won't go anywhere near the fertilizer or, herbicides at Home Depot. I won't go near the perfume counter. I won't even walk into some department stores. And if I do, I plug my nose and I get myself all the way through into the
shopping malls are pretty horrible too.
Horrible. Yeah.
I used to think it was just Lush and Bath and Body Works, but it's like the whole mall.
Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely. Or when people sit next to you, like the nose blindness that you described. I've never heard that term, but when people are just blasting themselves with cologne or perfume and they sit next to you on a plane and you're like, good God. Or the other day I'm in an Uber and the guy's got like massive scented, the stuff that plugs in with the air blowing through it. I'm like, dude, you're killing
I instantly tell them to please remove it. I tell them I'm allergic to it. I open the windows.
Yeah.
I actually, yesterday when I flew back here from LA, I'm in the Uber. By the way, I opened the window right away. It wasn't even a plug-in one. It was like a Christmas tree thing. And I smelt myself all day.
Yep.
At the airport, on the plane, I'm like, people are going to think I'm like spraying myself in this. And like, I feel sick with it myself. I probably should have went and changed my shirt. But like, how crazy. Doors open in a car and it just stunk. And you are like, yeah, you're anything that can get wet has like a rule of thumb, whether it's a t-shirt, a towel, a carpet, if it can get wet, it absorbs air.
Yep. It's nuts that people don't realize what this is doing to them. Most notably their endocrine system. I'm just like, my daughter recently was dating a guy and Febreze clearly was a favorite of his. I could smell it. And I'm like, do you want to have children someday? Like, do you want functional, parts? Because bathing in artificial scents all day long in these chemicals is going to just.
If you search the word on Google, the term air freshener is searched exponentially more than air filtration or air purification. And like I said, I call it air makeup. So as soon as I get to an Airbnb, I unplug all of them immediately. By the way, when I was doing flood restoration, they taught us in the flood restoration course that when we're done a house, to run around and spray chemical lemon deodorizer everywhere. Because they said if it smells clean, the customer will think it is clean. And that was baked. Same thing with janitorial. When you go to a mall or an office or a house, unless you're like really forward thinking and aware of the chemicals, a lot of these products are scented because it helps the cleaner do a good job. Because if the home smells clean, then the customer assumes it is clean.
Yep.
Whereas if it was actually clean, it should actually smell neutral, like nothing.
Yep.
It should smell like outside.
Absolutely.
And that was literally in our training for restoration stuff.
And cleansers, there's data on that too, showing that people that are exposed to a lot of cleansers, especially these sprays like house cleaners, high rates of cancer. I mean, this is not a joke. And we've known this for decades. So I'm really excited that people are starting to catch on. Unfortunately, you're right. I think the mold thing is really, it's a big thing on the internet right now. It's a big thing that folks are growing their Instagram accounts with. And I wholeheartedly understand that mold can make people very ill. I've been mold sick. My daughter's been mold sick. But at the end of the day, there's so many factors that we can improve. And sometimes people are not able to move out of their house, or they move out of their house into another house that they find out has mold later. We can't outrun some of these things. And
I call it playing whack-a-mole. You won't win that game.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if you move to if you move to Arizona to get away from the community. Newsflash: all the desert sand used to be underwater. It's got ancient mold in it too. I see more mold toxicity in Arizona than anyone because they don't even have the humidity.
Yeah.
So when there's a dust storm, all that dust, the same species of mold that you find in their blood is the same in their dust. So you can't outrun this stuff, but like you can filter it from the inside, like from inside your home. And when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And I hated being the guy who was gutting homes for tens of thousands of dollars. Like it took my own awareness to see the echo chamber I was living within. And the nice thing is, if you think about an air purifier being $1,000, it seems expensive. but a $7,000 whole home water filtration system seems reasonable. So I try to explain that getting 3 or 4 Jaspers or another air filtration system is a whole home air filtration system. It's not like you're buying the purifier, you're buying clean air on the whole home. And it's important that people know that this is not just about Jaspr. It's better to get something than nothing. The little $100, $200 air purifiers at Home Depot and Best Buy, those don't really work. The ones that are like $500 or $600 that are much larger, they work really good. The reason that somebody picks Jaspr over one of the other ones is actually because they want something that's steel instead of plastic, something that will last decades instead of 1 or 2 years, which is why we can do a lifetime warranty. And also they care that it's beautiful and that it blends in with their decor. Because if you have something that's effective, but it looks like an air conditioner in the middle of your living room and it's bright plastic, you can save a few $100s. So it's not about telling, like, I would rather people build a DIY air purifier and do something to clean their air. That's the most important, that someone does something. But where Jasper's not for everybody, we're if someone has a $15 kettle from Walmart, we're probably not the right solution for them. If they bought the $70 one or the $90 one that is, matte black metal or glass and looks nice on the countertop because they view it like functional art in their home, and I think I actually personally get stressed from a cluttered environment. So modern minimalistic decor, I actually find decreases my stress because of the aesthetic in the room. So I didn't do any market research when I developed Jaspr. I almost didn't even launch the company. I just wanted the product for myself, for my friends and my family during wildfire season. And then it just so happened to kind of lead to where it did. But I just want people to understand that buying a commercial air filter, even if it's loud and ugly, it's way better than getting nothing.
Yes.
So this is we're not the only solution in the world. There's lots of other ones out there. We're only for, a section of people who values the thing that we valued. But for everybody else, there's thousands of products. And I want the main takeaway for people to be like, be more air aware, trust your nose a little bit. And one important thing is if we took 5 people and we all went outside right now and we all asked each other what the temperature is, it's amazing. You'll be mind blown. No one says 90 degrees and the other person says 60. Everybody's going to be within 2 to 5 degrees of each other. Humans are shockingly good at telling the temperature, even if you didn't look at your phone today. Everybody could wake up, no phone, go outside, guess the temperature within a couple degrees.
Wow.
Same thing indoors. Everybody can tell between, 69 to 71. If you ask people indoors or outside, the humans will tell. Everybody writes it on a piece of paper and guesses what temperature it is, almost to a T. The other night at dinner, I played this game in LA, and it was everybody guessed between 87 and 90, and it was 89. So I'm like, guys, look, you have a temperature sensor in your skin. The only reason that you know the number is because you calibrated it by looking at the weather every day. And I've actually done the same thing with carbon dioxide. So I can tell when the CO2 is 600 or 1600 by how easy it is to breathe. I'm pretty good at telling relative humidity. If you go to a desert, it feels, what dry feels like.
Mm-hmm.
Dry skin, dry hair, dry throat. If you go to a rainforest, it feels humid. How do you know it feels it? Because you have humidity sensors in your skin. If, we're all blown away by dogs and bears and sharks that can smell the animal or the blood miles away. But we can smell stuff miles away too. Like if I blindfold someone and I tie their hands behind their back and I put some garbage across the whole home, blindfolded, you can find it. You also can smell through air currents. And the same thing exists with becoming mold aware, with becoming, I never used to smell the car air freshener or the deodorant. Once you start A, filtering your air, and B, living like a more low toxic life, cleaning up the products that you use, all of a sudden your body rewards you because you won't be able to stand these things. All of a sudden when you're walking in the mall, you're like, chemical. And you start to trust your nose. And once you do that, you can really navigate for yourself. If it smells moldy, it is moldy. And same with all this other stuff. If it smells like a bunch of chemicals, it is. Like when I go to a restaurant now, eating indoors is usually unbearable for me. I'd rather be on the patio and wear a sweater if it's a little cold and be outside than be in this little box with 130 people breathing
Yes.
and cooking and cleaning products.
Yes.
Like it's so I do say there is one actually really bad negative downside to investing in clean air. It can make you an air snob. And then that can be annoying because all of a sudden, so I'm working on something right now called Jaspr List. It probably won't come out for another year, but I'm recruiting hundreds of building biologists around the country that when they're traveling with their family or for work, we're going to be I've already been doing this for a year. We test the air quality in the hotel rooms, and then we're going to be publishing the air quality of all the different hotel rooms all over the country. So imagine you're going to stay in Miami or LA. We'll have the mold levels, the VOCs, the particulates, the chemicals.
That's
and say,
huge.
hey, here's a low tox, super clean air hotel, and these are the ones to avoid. And not only that, we're going to, every test we do will be a blog, it'll be filmed, and we'll have the lab results. So,
oh my gosh, that's huge. That's huge. My friend, you'll laugh. Well, you won't laugh. Other people laugh at me. My friends and I, who travel a lot for work, like literally have a going list. Like, hey, I'm going to be here. Can you tell me, like, and I know that they're mold aware. And I'm like, what's the, because when you end up spending $500, $700 a night for a hotel and you leave there more mold sick than you entered, I mean, I have stories. Like I have left losing my mind because I got hit so hard with black mold.
And they never have windows that open.
No, you can't open the windows, and you can't open the windows when they've dumped cleaner all over the carpets or whatever. And it's horrible. And so we actually have kind of like a little insiders network of, hey, what's your favorite hotel? So that I'm not going to get.
Well, I'll make sure I'll tell you guys when we activate everybody, because we'll actually gift some of you guys the air testing gadgets.
Oh yes,
so
please.
Whenever you're on the road, you can actually like help build up. I want to the only way to do this at scale is by crowdsourcing it.
Yeah.
So I'm getting all of the air quality experts in the country and anyone who's health aware that cares about this stuff to sort of do these tests, because they'll do it and they'll be on the they'll be on the website. It has we'll link it back to whoever did that hotel's website. We're going to crowdsource it.
That's great. Because
next week I'm going to Miami for the Independent Hotel Show, and we're picking 3 hotels to apply to be Jaspr Wellness hotels, and we're going to gift them 50 to 100 Jaspers.
Wow.
Because we learned in our sleep study, when people sleep with clean air, it changes their life. It changes their sleep score. And the number one request we get from people is, can you please make a smaller air purifier? And the answer is no. It has to be, you can't pull your boat with a golf cart.
Yeah.
You cannot do it. Sometimes you need an RV. Like I think you were talking about it before. Sometimes you all don't want to sleep in in the back of your truck. Size matters.
Yeah.
So the Jaspr has to be a certain size so it can be quiet and effective. So no, we won't be making a smaller one. Lots of other companies make those. But what I will do is I will shout from the rooftops and I will educate, and I will go to all of these hotel shows. And the first thing I do is I give the hotel owner, decision maker. So right at the show, we have 18 Jaspers. And when we talk to them and they're not sure, we're literally going to leave the show on the spot and deliver a Jaspr to their room tonight at the show. So then the next day, come talk to me. And they're going to be like, whoa. And we'll go to their hotel room. We'll do an air test. They'll see that the air will get 95% cleaner in 20 minutes. Because it's a closed loop system and the air is so bad, it's life-changing being in a hotel setting. Now look, now you've had the lived experience. And I say hotels, they're in the sleep business. They sell sleep as a service. So if you're investing in all these mattresses and stuff and pillows and sheets and blankets and cool rooms, and in some hotels, Hilton or Hyatt, they charge you $95 a night to be in a stay well suite. They give you a cheap $99 air purifier and essential oils and vitamin C in the shower.
Yeah.
I'm like, how about you don't charge them extra? You're charging enough, and you put it in every room for everybody. So I want to really raise awareness bottom up so the consumers demand it, and top down so the hotels, it's either are you not aware or do you not care? And if people start demanding it and they're willing to pay more for a clean air hotel, mold-free HEPA air filtration, I would easily pay more money for it.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, that would be a box that so we want to be like the TripAdvisor for the air portion of hotels. So, and then all of a sudden, if their bookings are down or their 5-star reviews are up because they have clean air. So my thought is you shouldn't have to travel with your own air mattress to a hotel. You shouldn't have to travel with your own filtered water, and you sure shouldn't have to travel with your own clean air. So no, we don't have a small one. No, we won't have a small one, but I will do my damn best to make sure hotels get it, and we'll literally give it to them, because once someone sleeps in the room and they have a profound experience, they'll buy it for their house.
I love that. That's so great. Speaking of rooms, what is the ideal placement of filter to room size, or like how many should we have in our house?
People like to other brands talk about square footage. Everybody wants to think about life in the lens of an Amazon filter. I want low price and I want extra large room. I did a video the other day. I was at a Target in LA. There was a friggin' air purifier there, this big. It was like the size of a water bottle, a little bit bigger, and it was called the Never Change filter. That doesn't make sense. And it says for extra large rooms, for multi-room air purifier, 1,400 square feet.
Wow.
Meanwhile, when you look at the specs on the manual, on the box, on the website, they don't give it to you. They won't tell you the CFM. They talk in square foot. So somebody goes, oh, wow, I'll do my whole house. And they buy this little kettle-sized air purifier. And then if you look in the fine print on the box, it goes based on 1 air change per hour. You want 5 air changes per hour. So it's very uncool to market to people like that. This is why I don't do Google ads, Facebook ads, Best Buy. I'm like, let's just educate people. And those, because otherwise, like if somebody wants to buy a tiny air purifier, they should at least know what they're buying. Like I've met people who are worth millions of dollars that have the cheapest air purifiers. They just thought they were checking a box, but they're like, I don't really notice that it does anything. So also square footage. Do you have 7-foot ceilings or do you have 22-foot vaulted ceilings?
Good point.
Air purifiers don't care about square feet. It's not a Roomba. It cares about cubic volume.
Okay.
So that matters. If you have a mechanical system that's running, that is mixing the air. That increases the square footage or the cubic volume. So broadly speaking, though, if you have 8-foot ceilings, it's 1,000 square feet, you can do a great job. Also, when air purifiers talk about their square footage, that's assuming you're running it on the full loud setting 24 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, your air purifier is running on the lowest setting most of the time, and it's only spiking up when it really needs to, which is why we made it big. Because when it's large, even on its lowest setting, it's moving much more air than a little machine on full speed. To answer your question, good. If someone has to get one in your bedroom is the no-brainer. That's where you want it. You spend a third of your life there. Let's dial in the sleep sanctuary, get that all figured out. Second best is 1 in your bedroom and 1 in your living room to handle your cooking particulate. And best is 1 per bedroom. I mean, everyone's bedroom in the home. It's funny, everybody puts their kids in front of them except for when it comes to clean air. They put a Jaspr in the master and they get the Honeywell for the kid's bedroom.
Oh, that's not nice.
They don't realize it. But so yeah, good 1 in your bedroom, better. And the fun thing is, let's say you put 1 in your bedroom. That's going to make the air in your bedroom over 95% cleaner, but it's going to make the air in the whole home like 20% cleaner because your air is being shared, which means if you have 1 in your bedroom and 1 in the kitchen, living room space, both of those rooms are going to be like over 90% cleaner, but every room is going to be like 40% cleaner. So when someone has 1 per bedroom and 1 in the main area, it works cohesively to be a whole home system. Also, that's why we do our pricing the way it is. So if somebody buys 1, it's $9.99. But if they buy 2, it's 10% off. If they buy 3, it's 15% off. If they buy 4, it's 20% off.
Well, that's nice.
And yeah, at the end of the show, I because like I said, we don't do Google and Facebook ads. We just like to educate. So I have a really big discount code for anybody who's like, you know what? I've been thinking about investing in clean air. This feels like the right time. I have a really big discount code for your audience, and it actually bundles with ours. So if somebody uses your code, which I'll just tell you what it is now. I feel like, you have any more questions? Are we near the end here?
That's the question. Yeah, I got them all. I got my questions answered.
So this podcast is coming out October 18th. And what we're going to do is, so between October 18th and October 25th, code Dr. Tyna, DRTYNA, is 20% off. So that's just October 18th to October 25th. So for 1 week, it's 20% off. However, forever after that, we'll leave it up forever at 10% off. But just like to motivate those people who are on the fence and thinking about it now, it'll be 20% off. And that combines with our website. So if somebody buys like 2, it's our 10% plus your 20% for 30% off, which is like $300 per unit. And we call it the life-changing guarantee. So if at any point in the first 2 months, there's nothing worse than if somebody buys a product and they can't return it because it's not good. That's the reason I don't buy a lot of things. So if it's not an absolute no-brainer, you just message us. We'll ship. Hopefully you keep the box for the first 2 months. If you don't, we'll ship you a new box. We'll ship you a box, put it in there. We'll take it back because 96% of people who get Jaspers have life-changing impact right away. So for the other 3 or 4% of people, we're in the prove it marketing business. That's why we gave them the way for the sleep study. That's why we're going to give them hotels. We can let the product speak for itself. So for anyone who's not having a way better night's sleep, we'll take it back. Somebody else will take it. We'll give it to a daycare. Not a problem. So October 18th to October 25th, code Dr. Tyna is 20% off. After that, it's 10% off. And our website is jaspr.co, Jaspr, no E, jaspr.co. And hopefully that is helpful for some folks.
That is super generous of you. That's great. This is really, it's such a beautiful machine. It works great. The interface is really simple to understand. I like that there's not an app. It's very quiet. I have some other high-end air filtration systems sprinkled throughout my house, and yours is just frankly so good looking that I am considering I just need that. And my rule for rooms, going back to what you were saying, is if there's walls and doors that close, it needs its own air filtration system. And
that's even more true for you because of the HVAC.
Yeah.
But it's true for everybody, but it's extra true for you guys.
Because we don't have any air moving. Yeah, good point. So informative. This has been so helpful. You have taught me all the things that I have always wondered and wanted to ask questions about. You are a wealth of knowledge, Mike. Thanks for coming on the show today. Thank you for your generous discount. Thank you for all the education. And thanks for creating a really kick-ass product. This is great.
It's at least I could do.
I love it. Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the Dr. Tyna Show. This is a Wellness Loud production produced by Drake Peterson and mixed by Mike Fry. Theme song is by John the Guilt. You can watch the full video version of this podcast inside the Spotify app or on YouTube. As always, you can email the podcast at podcast@drtyna.com. That's DRTYNA. And if you like this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. You can also find all of my offerings on my website at drtyna.com. For more shows by my team, go to wellnessloud.com. See you next time, and thanks for listening. This podcast is for general informational purposes only. It does not constitute the practices of medicine, nursing, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice. I am a doctor, but I am not your doctor. No doctor-patient relationship is formed. The use of this information and the materials linked to this podcast is at the user's own risk. The content on this podcast is intended not to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice from any medical condition they have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions.